Donald Trump is now going after Leonard Leo, the head of the Federalist Society, who gave him that list of judges that Trump has used to pick his federal judges, who then sometimes have turned back on Trump. But now Trump is going after the head of that whole conservative movement. What's going on here? Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida LawMan, here on Legal AF. Thank you for all your support. Hit that subscribe button. Now, let's talk about how Donald Trump, instead of embracing the conservatives who have helped him get elected, because remember, there was this deal between Trump and the traditional conservatives. All right, the traditional conservatives said, we'll put up with your MAGA stuff, but you give us our judges. And that worked in the first term. Trump appointed all these right-wing judges, but some of them have decided to go their own way. Amy Coney Barrett, for example. And Leonard Leo has been incredibly powerful. The head of the Federalist Society raised a lot of money and is very well connected. And now Trump is attacking Leo. Trump on his social media platform went after Leonard Leo by calling him a sleazebag, saying he probably hates America. It's amazing. And then, of course, if you want to know how Leo responded to Trump, what do you think? Quote, I'm very grateful for President Trump transforming the federal courts, and it was a privilege being involved, Leo said. There's more work to be done, for sure, but the federal judiciary is better than it's ever been in modern history, and that will be President Trump's more important legacy. I'm sure that'll smooth things over with Trump. See, Trump is going after Leo because Trump feels betrayed by the judges, like the judge who ruled against him on the tariffs just the other day. One of them in that 3-judge panel was a judge appointed by Trump. He also sees Amy Coney Barrett doing her thing and sees other judges who are resisting him. And so he blames Leonard Leo, who is the epitome of the traditional Republican who made that deal with Trump. And now Trump feels betrayed. But of course, that's how the federal judiciary works. Judges get lifetime appointments. There's no guarantee. And when you ask a judge who has gone through legal training, who has a reputation of following the law, even as strict constructionalists, they still believe in following the Constitution, right? Where Trump is trying to do something that is beyond the Constitution, they're going to call you out. That's why there's a 7-2 ruling in the Supreme Court against the Trump policy under the Alien Enemies Act of deporting Abrego Garcia and other individuals without due process. So you can believe, like Trump does, that judges who you appoint are beholden to you and should do your bidding, but that's not the way it works. Yes, maybe in Congress, they are capitulating to Trump. They are emasculating themselves, but the judiciary is holding firm. They have been independent and they have been pushing back. In fact, it's the only branch of government now with Congress out of the picture that is, I think, saving our democracy, that's serving as the guardrails. And Trump doesn't like that. So that's what's behind the attacks on Leonard Leo. Leonard Leo is the person he says is most responsible, but it's also a metaphor for everyone involved in the judiciary. He's like he's the personification of the federal judiciary, the judges who he hates. And you remember when Trump appointed so many judges so quickly? Remember he had Mitch McConnell's help in the Senate and they ran through all these judges. It hasn't happened this term yet. He is slow to appoint judges. And why is that? Well, there are a number of theories out there, but George Conway, who's appeared on the Midas Touch Network, has a theory. And he said this on TV the other night, and I'll quote it. He said, I think part of the reason why we're seeing so few judicial appointments thus far, as opposed to the flood that Leonard Leo gave us 8 years ago, is that most of the people who are in the conservative legal establishment who are qualified to become judges, whether or not you like them or not, they're not qualified to Trump because they haven't displayed their loyalty. And if they have that Federalist Society credential, I think that Stephen Miller said today, we're not picking people from the Federalist Society anymore. And that's why Trump's recent appointee of Emile Beauvais, the number 2 person at the Department of Justice, to be part of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals is really telling. Instead of putting someone on the bench from the traditional conservative side of the party, the Federalist Society, he's going with a loyalist. That is what he's doing to the judiciary now. But there are not as many loyalists who can serve as judges as there are who can serve in the administration, because you have to be qualified to be a judge. You have to be part of the bar and have a certain number of years. And then if you're totally unqualified, if you're a hack, yeah, the U.S. Senate may not confirm you. I mean, Ed Martin, who was a hack, who he appointed to be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, had to withdraw because the U.S. Senate was going to reject him. Now, I know the U.S. Senate is known for rolling over as opposed to standing up to Trump, but we're starting to see a little bit more and more. And that's why Trump is now so slow in appointing judges, because he's got to find a judge who is a loyalist, forget their politics, forget their statutory interpretation, their judicial theory. He wants loyalists. And those people have to get through a Senate confirmation. That's the problem. So as George Conway said, so they don't really have a pipeline and they really have a limited pool of people. Trump's own personal criminal lawyers, well, there are a lot of them, but there's still not enough to fill the federal judiciary. That's what's going on here. That's why we're starting to see a slowdown, which is good, because Biden put through a record number of judges really quickly, 4 years. And now people fear that Trump would do the same, but it hasn't happened yet. Now, here's my concern, is that when inevitably there's a Supreme Court vacancy, Trump can find someone who is in his mindset, MAGA, loyalist, and who's on the bench already to elevate Judge Aileen Cannon. Yes, the judge who dismissed the charges against him from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, the judge over in Fort Pierce in my backyard, has a reputation of ruling very favorably for the person who appointed her. Will we see her elevated, even though she's a relatively inexperienced judge, from the district court down here to the Supreme Court? Well, that would be in line with Trump's new judicial philosophy. It's not to cut deals with Leonard Leo. It's not for a strict constructionist approach to the Constitution. It's loyalty, because Trump is infuriated that the judges have been going against him, and he wants that to end. But that's going to take a lot of time, and it is slowing down the number of judges appointed. I suspect that if things don't change, that you may see a number of vacancies on the bench by the end of Trump's term, so that the next president will have a real opportunity to reshape the judiciary. So hang on, because the judiciary has not been eviscerated yet. The judiciary is still remaining strong, and we'll keep following it here on Legal AF. I'm Dave Aronberg, aka the Florida LawMan. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Thank you for all your support here at Legal AF. Let's keep it going, and I'll see you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.